Hi everyone, I am Alice Clementi, the co-founder of Charterpath. In the UK, food bank usage is at an all-time high and it's rising. The Trussell Trust operates a network of over 1,300 food banks across the UK, and last year they distributed nearly 3 million food parcels across the UK. Over 1 million of these were for children. This is the highest level of food parcel distribution in Trussell Trust's history. For finance professionals looking to make an impact, volunteering with organisations like Trussell Trust can be vital. And we see many food banks are in need of financial expertise to manage donations, budgets, and operations. And it's a really great step for people wanting to get involved with volunteering their skills. I'm joined today by Pete and Laura from the Trussell Trust to explore more about the impact that you can have as finance professionals volunteering your skills. So, Laura, if you might introduce yourself for us.
Yeah, bless you. Thanks, Alice. I'm Laura Chalmers. I'm an area manager for Trussell, so I look after the food banks across Yorkshire, Humberside, and North Lincolnshire. I've done that for 8 years, but I was a project manager of York Food Bank, which is where I live, for about 4 years previous to that.
Thanks, Laura. And Pete?
Hi, Alice. I'm Pete Criddle. I'm the treasurer of Bradford North Food Bank. Have been a trustee for the last 5 years there. In my day job, I'm a chartered accountant, tax manager at a Yorkshire Housing Association.
Thanks, Pete. So Laura, if I could start with you, could you share a bit more about your experience with Trussell Trust and how you've seen the needs evolve over the time that you've been working with them?
Yeah, so like I said, I actually started as a volunteer in my local food bank around 2010. So obviously Trussell released their stats at the end of every year. So that particular year, the end of year stats, we'd given out 60,000 food parcels. And then fast forward to this last financial year, we've given out nearly 3.2 million. So just to put that into context in the kind of growth, not only in the need that we've seen, but the growth in kind of the underpinning governance structures needed in those organisations to be able to keep up with that demand. And that has brought obviously lots of challenges. So that 3.2 million food parcels is higher than any year we've had previously, including the COVID years, which we thought would be kind of a peak really and a one-off, and we would kind of come back down again, but it hasn't. It's continued to increase. So yeah, lots of challenges with that, including bringing in the appropriate amount of funding that's needed for those food banks. Many of our food banks now are purchasing food. I'm sure Pete can talk about that a little bit. And in my history of kind of 12 years of being around food banks, we've never been in a position where we've been purchasing food at the amounts that we are at the minute. So that put in kind of more pressure on funding as well. And just, yeah, the range of kind of grants that food banks are applying for now, the range of services they provide. I think it's important to say that well, for all of my Yorkshire and Humberside food banks, they provide advisors in their food bank sessions, and you know that needs support from the food bank as well financially. So yeah, all of that to say that the need for kind of increased financial skills on those boards is kind of tenfold where they were when these food banks first started. I think it's fair to say it was mostly born out of local churches who have got a cupboard that they can store food and a handful of volunteers who can give it out. And now it's a much bigger beast than it was back in 2010 when I got involved. So yeah, I think that's why we need to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's critical, the work that you're doing. And Pete, can you share a bit about your experience as a treasurer? What does it involve? How do you fit it in? What do you find most rewarding?
So effectively, the treasurer is like the CFO in the small charity, but you're also the purchase ledger assistant much of the time and everything in between. So that means making payments and bank reconciliations, but budgets, year-end accounts, and then quirky things that you might not do professionally, like gift aid returns. And if you're unlucky, you end up being the charity commission person as well. So there's all sorts in there. managing that range of things is probably the most challenging. Most rewarding is seeing the impact that has on people, seeing people's lives change, because usually in conjunction with other people, our referral agents, we're a partnership, the financial advice that people get, but also seeing your fellow volunteers grow and develop, learn new skills, which could be financial or just life skills or other things, and use that to find employment or just find fulfillment or purpose in their life. And the fitting it in was your last question, which it does sound like it should be a lot. The world has changed. Our volunteer cohort is a lot younger. And one big driver behind that is business work is more flexible. I used to be in this office from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Now, there's not as many people in the office. I can be in the office till midnight some nights or 7 a.m., but I can also be not in the office at 2 o'clock. I can be in the food bank. And so I do one afternoon a week where I do that finance work. So I can focus that time. It's in a productive time of day for me. And I can sit down and focus on it without interruption, which I wouldn't have had before. And I can make the hours up, around that. And many businesses see now well-being, employee well-being, and mental health and so on as much more important and something to look at, and will allow that. I have a boss who will essentially, well, she says she doesn't care what I do as long as I get the work, when I do it, as long as I get the work done. Many people have that. Or you can, if you don't, you can use that as a rod with which to beat your HR department. Say, this is for my well-being as well as the well-being of my community.
Yeah, we do see lots of employers nowadays having those corporate charity days where people can use time off work to support charitable causes. And I think using your skills in that capacity is just so valuable, isn't it, for the charity? I'd love to get your top tips. Laura, what would you say to somebody that was thinking about volunteering their skills to Trussell Trust?
Yeah, I think, so I support 16 food bank charities across our region, and their boards and their governance. And I think I increasingly have seen how important the role of treasurer is strategically. So not just the kind of managing the ins and outs of the money, but actually being able to be forward thinking and forecasting forward for the rest of the board to see what's coming down the track, if that makes sense. And that there wouldn't be that many kind of financial surprises, if you like. And all of that to say that, a person receiving a food parcel and the financial advice and support that they need in a food bank centre would not happen if we didn't have the financial skills on the board to make all of those cogs work together, if that makes sense. So, I think I would say that you're a vital role, one that's very much needed as we go forward, that you can get involved not just with the practical stuff, but the kind of strategic thinking and planning, and having that knowledge of how to best kind of arrange your funds as well, what banks to put them in, where to move money, all of that kind of stuff, so that food banks are as effective and as savvy with their donations as they can be. It's not the most glamorous role, I think. I think it's probably fair to say that. But like Pete says, you can gain lots of other further skills. You engage indirectly with your community. So I sit on a board of trustees as well, and you're very much part of the gang of the volunteers and trustees together. And I think there's a lot of fulfillment that can come from that.
That's amazing. Thanks, Laura. And Pete, what would you say to somebody thinking about volunteering, maybe focusing specifically on the younger generation, people that might not yet have received might not be doing accountancy qualifications, but climbing the ranks? What would you recommend? How would they get involved with a food bank?
Yeah, think about what you've got to offer. You've got a lot to offer as an individual, but also what you want from it. You can get a lot from it. I joined the food bank because I was coming to the end of my accountancy qualification, thinking I want to use this a bit more broadly. And so you get to sort of do all these different things that you might not do in your day job. That goes on your CV. You can shape the role as well. There's a lot of scope. The board might not know what it doesn't know. You might be able to bring new insights. Laura mentioned there, like fund management. You can you use surplus funds in a better way that they just hadn't thought of. But yes, think about, don't be afraid to ask your employer to give you that flexibility, and to suggest new things to the food bank. You may be younger, the rest of the board might be in their 70s or 80s, but you're bringing something unique with the background you have now in today's workplace, and with your financial skills.
I love that, Pete. It reminds me of a catchphrase we use a lot at Charterpath, which is don't doubt the difference you can make. I think we often describe volunteer financial skills or financial skills as a superpower because it's not something that everybody has. And I think Laura set out for us quite how critical it is in today's world, the fact that there are so many people relying on food banks, and we need people with financial skills to support the amazing work that they do. So if anyone, thank you both for your time today. If anyone listening is inspired to get involved, please join us at Charterpath, join our community. You can find some opportunities to volunteer with the Trussell Trust on our website, and don't doubt the difference you can make. Many thanks.